But before we get to dinner, I'd like to invite John Salvis to pay tribute to some of the members we've lost this year and make remarks that normally would have been done by Bill Grossberg, but because of his wife's illness is unable to be with us tonight. So John, could I ask you to come forward, please?
We bow our heads and honoring the Lizzies that have passed away in the last year, please. Lizzie members deceased since our last dinner: Ben Shurkin, Max Gelberg, Ed Futterman, Dr. Jack Cooper, Mike Osborne, Ike Klein, Dave Rosenberg, and a non-Lizzie, Glenn Thomas Rankin, beloved father of Shelley Andrade of Mary McCormick Recreation Center. And we also ask God to bless this meal and us to thy use. Amen.
Thank you, John. The second award winner is John Salvis. John, a very successful private life and an outstanding athletic accomplishments as a Lizzie, where he contributed to 4 playground, 4 city championships in basketball, and 2 playground and 2 city championships in softball between 1935 and 1941. His wife, Peg, would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And John, would you come forward and say a few words, please?
This is quite an honor for a guy like me, I tell you. Well, and yet I must have been destined, whether I knew it or not, to be a Lizzie. Because growing up in McCall Street, lived with the Klein family, and they had a teenager, Alan, and he used to take me out as a little baby and throw me around with some of his pals, who happened to be Billy Gold and Ruby Stein, if you remember those old Lizzie guys. I didn't know they were Lizzies at the time. But anyway, I guess when we moved up to Major Street, and there was an empty lot just above Harvard Street, and we used to kibitz around, play ball there, and a fellow lived right behind me, Solly Bergstein, better known as Panko. He said, why don't you come out and play for Lizzie's? Well, it's the best offer I ever had, so I said, sure. Anyway, that was the start of an amazing, not only career, but amazing friendship with some wonderful guys. It was just repetitive, of course, winning championships. I think two Bantam baseball and basketball in the same year, and then only 1 midget. Unfortunately, I got conned to play for Harvard Collegiate basketball one year, so I didn't play for Lizzie's that year. But then after that, it was juvenile. The two championships with the previous speaker, so we kept on winning. But of course, what he didn't mention was our trip to Ottawa to play for the championship. Of course, it was really hardship times, and all we could rummage up was 1 car. So the only guys, we were going to take 3 passengers, the only guys that could go who could contribute money for the gas. Well, I was fortunate. I used to do some hustling down at Maple Leaf Ballpark and also the arena, so I always had a little bit of gelt with me. So I was lucky I rode in the car. I think Bob did too, didn't you, Bob? He went with me in the car. He must have had some money. The rest of the guys had to hitchhike. Well, of course, in those days, it was a heck of a long trip. The only way you got to Ottawa was along Highway 7. And of course, that's a long, tortuous route. Well, it was an all-night drive. I think we had a couple of flat tires on the way. The other 4 guys had to hitchhike, but believe it or not, they got to Ottawa before we did. Well, that was quite an experience playing at the YMCA there, and fortunately they did us up well. They sort of paid for our room and everything, and they rustled up another car finally to get all us back, but we had to go to some gas station to. He gave us some free gas to get us back. But that, of course, that was an experience I'll never forget. Anyway, it continued on. I think in junior, we didn't have a team. So what happened that year, all the Lizzies wanted to play basketball. They went and played for JCC. Remember the Jewish Community Center? Well, of course, I was the only guy that they wouldn't have me, so I went and played West End Y. Well, to make a long story short, who went into the final championship but West End Y versus JCC, and believe it or not, West End Y won. So that was a little twist in my Lizzie days. Anyway, the war came along, and many of us went overseas and came back, and believe it or not, we played Lizzies again, but we had a basketball team, intermediate team. Of course, a lot of us hadn't touched a baseball or a basketball for years, so I think that was about the only year we got, our you-know-what kicked. We didn't win much, did we, Bob? I don't know what happened. But that's pretty well ties up this. The rest of my years, I, of course, got married. I actually got married before we went overseas, Peggy and I. We've been married 66 years now. Take a hat, Peggy. But the funny thing about our marriage was I was in the Air Force at the time, and we were married 12 days, and I was gone for 3.5 years. So that's how you make a marriage last, believe it or not. But there was a lot of water under the bridge since then. We ended up in Montreal for 26 years, and I still carried on with playing fastball and even coached some minor football teams. As a matter of fact, one of my fastball teams I had Sam Echeverry, if you remember him, playing on my team, and also what was that hockey player's name? Fleming McCall. Yeah, I played at Boston. But anyways, great years. And I guess it was 1963, Bob got a hold of me. He knew I was in Montreal. And he mentioned about the Lizzie, they're having a retirement for Bob Abate. So I managed to get back on a Conda business trip back to Toronto and attended, and it was a wonderful feeling to be at that Bob Abate tribute for his retirement and to see all the old Lizzie guys. It's been a wonderful trip down memory lane, and I'll remember it till my dying day. Thanks for everything.
Let me read this for you, and then we'll go back. The plaque reads, "The Lizzies Old Timers Association is proud to present the Ron Ronchetti Achievement Award to John Salvis in recognition of a lifetime of outstanding achievements as a Sun Scholar and athlete, a World War II member of the Royal Canadian Air Force, a successful businessman, and a loving and devoted husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. As a result of your presence in it, you have helped make the world a better place in which to live. We who have been honored to have known you say it's been a pleasure and well done." September 17th, 2008. I also have a photograph of the 1937-38 juvenile basketball team. John, you're absolutely the best looking and tallest of the group. Bob Abate and Cy Armstrong are in the picture, and on your left, John, is Matty Eckler. Matty was a supervisor in the city of Toronto. He was in charge of the Pape Recreation Centre when I was a lifeguard and swimming instructor, and that center is now called the Matty Eckler Center. So you're in good company, John. And in addition to that, John Salvis Junior and I, John was with the province, the Ministry of Tourism and Recreation. He was our representative in the city. We worked together for many years during the 70s and 80s. So, John, thank you.